Hi, everyone. This is the endorsement interview for U.S. Senate, a seat currently held by U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley. I'm Aaron Mesh. We'll be joined by three candidates today, and we'd like to have each of you introduce yourselves and give us about a 2-minute biography, more or less. It can go a little longer, but that's the general idea. Senator Merkley, can you get us started, please, as the incumbent?
Sure, absolutely. Senator Jeff Merkley, born in Myrtle Creek, just south of Roseburg. My dad was a mechanic and a millwright who keeps the mill running. Grew up in public schools, still live in a blue-collar community. Fight for the foundation for American families to have a chance to thrive. And that means healthcare and housing and education and good-paying jobs.
Great. And then, I'm sorry, I'm not sure on the pronunciation of your name, but Mr. Tahir, right?
Yep.
Great. Can you introduce
That's
yourself?
correct.
Great, I got it.
Yep.
Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself and why you're running?
Well, I'm Iber Tahir. I'm from Eugene, Oregon. I was born here. I'm a father, husband, philosopher, and an anti-war activist. Basically, I'm running against the two corporate party that is destroying our country, and this is why I'm running. We are having a lot of problems, and those problems really are a work of two parties, and unless we get rid of the two-party system, we cannot survive. Now, the majority of Americans are upset. The Congress has an approval rate less than 10%, but yet every senator, every congressman is really winning the seat for the re-election. What does that tell you? It tells you that our democracy is broken, and this is thanks to the two-party oppressive system.
Ibrahim, can I ask you to talk a little bit more about your bio, your employment history, what your profession is?
Yeah, I worked as a philosophy teacher for 4 years. You can see that I'm really young. Maybe Mr. Dai is
How old are you?
I'm 31.
And where do you teach philosophy?
I taught overseas. I got my graduate degree in philosophy from overseas.
No, I'm sorry, you said you were a philosophy teacher. Are you teaching now?
No, currently I'm unemployed. I do ride shares like Uber and Lyft. Please
tell us your work history. Where have you taught philosophy?
I taught overseas in Kuwait, at Kuwait University and middle schools there.
And how long ago was that?
That was 4 years, for 4 years.
And what have you been doing for the last 4 years?
Oh, I got sick with cancer, so I moved back. I lived in Minnesota for 2 years only to get treatment. Mm-hmm. When I came back to my hometown, Eugene, Oregon, I started being involved in politics. And ever since, I've been busy in research, philosophical research and activism.
So I'm sorry, how do you, if I may, how do you support yourself?
Oh, I told you, I'm doing ride shares like Uber driving and something like this. And also I have some income.
You're driving Uber full time?
Currently, temporarily, until we get over this election.
I see. And you are the Green Party candidate, is that correct?
Correct, and the Progressive Party candidate too.
Right. Was there a process with the Green Party?
Yes, we have a convention, and I won the convention, and the Green Party was contested. The Progressive Party was not contested.
Have you ever run for elective office before?
Nope.
Have you ever served in any civic capacity? Have you been on a school board, on the land use board? Is there any?
As I explained, it is only activism and research, academic research. This is my whole background.
So you've never served on any sort of community, civic, no.
Well, I'm doing my part as a state coordinating committee in the Green Party. If that counts, then yes, this is one of them.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dai, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Gary Dai, and I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and I went to David Douglas High School, as did Senator Merkley. I was fairly academic in high school and went to Oregon State University and got a degree in chemical engineering and started my career basically in oil refining. But I found out that oil refining isn't a great job or career. And I tried to get back to Portland in many different kinds of ways. I ended up also working in Saudi Arabia for 4 years and accumulated some money. And I tried to go to law school, didn't work out very well. And then I got a job with Northwest Natural Gas and became a measurement engineer there. And here I am. I was active in the Libertarian Party in the late 90s until I had to go to Houston to get a job and regenerate my career. And I came back and got involved with the Libertarian Party. I've been Libertarian probably 25 years or so. Got involved with the Libertarian Party. I'm on the board of directors of the Libertarian Party, and I'm running for office now. I was terminated for whistleblowing my job with Northwest Natural in 2012, and my career is over, ruined. There's no oil refining around Portland, and natural gas utilities. It's a monopoly, so I can't get a job in the natural gas industry. And my kids are here, and I cannot relocate. I have to stay in Portland. But fortunately, and I made decent money, and I saved and was a conservative investor. So I'm basically retired. I'll be 62 in December, and so now I'm just a politician.
Have you run for office before?
First time I ran for office was 1998 for Metro Councilor, I think District number 7. Then I had to go to Houston. In Houston, I actually ran for U.S. Representative, and there was no Republican challenger, and I think I even got like 12% of the vote, which is unprecedented for a Libertarian. Then I came back here, and after my divorce in 2016, I decided to get active in the Libertarian Party again. So in 2016, I ran for state representative. And 2 years ago, I ran for U.S. representative against Earl Blumenauer, District 3. And here I am running for U.S. Senator.
Is it safe for us to assume that as a member of the Libertarian Party that we can assume that you're a libertarian and as a consequence can understand your views by viewing it through that lens?
Yes and no. I am trying to change the Libertarian Party and change the platform for the Libertarian Party. The big mistake I see of libertarians is all they want to do is talk about the libertarian utopia. They don't want to talk about how to get there. We're far from a libertarian utopia. We've got a mixed economy and all kinds of government intrusion of personal freedoms here, there, and everywhere. And so, for example, libertarians do not believe in state-run retirement programs such as Social Security. Okay, and I really don't either. But we have a Social Security program, and we've got a whole bunch of people that have retired and receiving Social Security checks. So what are you going to do if you win and come into office? Are you going to stop the checks going? And if you don't do that, then how are you going to pay for it? And if you don't believe in taxes, and what about all these other things? And probably the biggest number one issue that I think that why libertarians never get any votes is because all these entitlement programs, well, people have become entitled to them and have become dependent on these programs and structured their whole lives around them. You just can't pull the plug. So what I've been trying to do is to, for the most part, trying to tell libertarians, look, you guys got to change your message. You've got to talk about how to transition from this place we are in now, which we don't like very much at all, to that place we want to be. So we need to have a smart, stepwise, and above all, a compassionate message to let people know that we're not going to destroy your life in this transition. We're going to do it very, very smartly. You know, it might take 10 years, it might take 50 years on some of these things. But the point is to get there. And we're not going to get there if libertarians continue to get 2% of the vote. So change your message.
Okay, thank you. Senator Merkley, you know, we know you pretty well and your viewpoints. I'm not sure it's terribly useful for us to go through that, but I would like to ask you about the mood in Congress right now. We talked to Kurt Schrader the other day, and he maintained that in the House of Representatives, things are not as divisive as the media would have you believe, that actually he's able to work across the aisle with Republicans in the House. Is that true in the Senate?
It is true on the issues that haven't become nationalized. For example, I've teamed up with Mitch McConnell to legalize hemp. I've teamed up with Mitch McConnell to save the Civilian Conservation Corps camps that we had in Oregon, because I knew he had 3. I teamed up with Lindsey Graham to save our helicopter on the coast. And that list of teaming up with people on various issues, just, you know, I could send you 10, 12, 15 examples if that would be useful. But on the national issues, where, for example, it has become part of the presidential battle, immigration is an issue. Extremely hard to get any cooperation. Even when folks across the aisle say they agree with you, they say, but our Republican leader has taken position X, Y, and Z on immigration, and we are not going to make him look bad by opposing him. So those are the issue of voting integrity, and vote by mail. It's another issue that's become nationalized and very hard to find partners across the aisle. I think the mood in the Senate may be a little more sour than the mood in the House, and it really comes down to the Supreme Court, because our Republican colleagues said 4 years ago, we passionately, personally believe in this principle that no nominee should ever be considered during an election year. And they said, we're absolutely convinced this is the right thing to do, even though it was contrary to entire US history. And it was the first time that a nominee had never been debated and never been voted on. And now our colleagues are saying, you know how passionately I cared about that principle? Well, of course you understand I'm a Republican and it's a Republican president. So of course I'm going to support this nomination process going forward in this year. So this loss of what appears to many of us is a profound loss of integrity because of the argument that our friends across the aisle made 4 years ago, and what's going on at this moment, and the fact that the Supreme Court is essentially the 9-member board that is the super legislature in America. There's more than 70 cases in recent memory where there's been a 5-4 decision for the powerful against the people. And this is an effort to lock in a 2-to-1 majority, a 6-3 majority for a generation to come that I don't think serves the we the people vision of our nation. So this is creating a tremendous amount of frustration and friction.
Thank you. If you were a betting man, independent of what you want to have happen, if you were just a betting man, would you bet that there's going to be a Supreme Court appointment before the election?
Yes. And I can tell you the reasoning behind that if that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
So the power behind the throne on the Republican side is a group of incredibly wealthy individuals who favor corporate power over people power, fossil fuel power over renewable energy. And they don't want to take any chance that they don't get that 6-3 majority on the court. So they're willing to throw Republican senators who do not want that vote before the election out the window, if you will. Susan Collins probably doesn't want that vote to be taken before the election. If she votes to advance a nomination to the floor, she betrays kind of her argument that she's independent. If she votes against it, she loses the support of her more Trumpian members of her party. But it's much more important to this group that Mitch McConnell fill that seat than it is that Susan Collins have a better position on her election to come. So if he has the 50 votes locked up and they're not so sick that he can't get them to the floor of the Senate to cast a vote. It'll happen before the election.
Thank you. Abraham, I've heard a couple things about you, and I'd like to know whether or not they're true. So the first is that you believe that we shouldn't be wearing masks. Is that correct?
Well, one of the things that you should know about me that I taught critical thinking for 4 years. I'm a logician too. I have a master's degree in critical thinking. So I teach people how to argue. This is one, how to build an argument. This is my profession. And it is an issue that has been very complicated, very propagated, which is the whole COVID issue. So yes, masks, according to science, not to me, according to science, are useless in fighting viruses. And who tells you otherwise, let him debate me. I'm very certain. I teach these things in a way. Second thing, I am a cancer survivor. Do you know what does that mean? That I had been treated with chemo. If you go to the chemo centers across the country from before COVID, none of them wearing masks, despite that they can die from anything, literally anything. I was treated at Mayo Clinic, the top in the world. And their recommendation was, those are useless for viruses.
Okay.
Then suddenly everything changed this year. And, you know, with the politicized issue like COVID, you'd expect that the scientists will manufacture some studies that doesn't hold any water. And this is what's going on.
So you do not wear a mask.
Well, for courtesy, yes. Some people are very paranoid about it. So,
But
just
you
for politeness.
You basically believe that the science does not support.
Well, when you say I believe, you're just pinning the issue on me. It's not me. I'm very objective. As I told you, I'm a logician. I can show you how scientists are disagreeing with this, despite what the media would tell you, the mainstream media, the propaganda machine that we live in.
Ibrahim, who are you going to support for president? Who are you going to vote for?
Well, probably no one. None of the current presidential nominees are viable. Anyhow.
So in your mind, Joe Biden is no better than Donald Trump?
Well, Joe Biden is a war criminal. He has participated in a lot of wars. He has killed a lot of people. So do you want me to vote for a criminal?
I'm asking you a question. In your mind, is there not much of a difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump?
Well, according to foreign policy, Joe Biden killed more people than Trump.
So Joe Biden's worse than Trump?
According to the numbers of people who has been killed, yes.
Well, if that's the case, then why aren't you going to support Donald Trump?
Because he's a criminal too. He has killed a lot of people.
Okay. So I have one other question to ask you, which is, you know, ideas are one thing, but when you talk to people who have been successful in Congress, they say execution is everything. The ability to actually accomplish something, not just the ability to have the right political viewpoint. What can you point to in your past? What's the single biggest accomplishment you've had, professional accomplishment, that you can point to and say, well, Emmett Week, if you give us your endorsement, I can trust you. I'm going to get shit done because I've done it here, here, and here. What is your single greatest achievement as it relates to being relevant for purposes of running for the United States Senate?
Well, you're talking about past experience, which is a tool that can be used to really silence reformers. Look at the Senate or the Congress. All of them have experience, and all of them screwed the country. So
with
this is
all due
irrelevant.
Respect, please answer my question.
Yeah, well, I'm an honest guy, and I'm pointing to the things that nobody is really daring to talk about. And
I'm going to ask you one more time. Could you please answer my question?
Yeah, so this is what I said. I prove that I can talk about the prohibited thing, and this is enough for people to endorse me.
Okay, you didn't answer the
Mark,
question.
you have a question for Gary?
Yeah, Gary,
Yes.
I got an email that you sent to every member of Willamette Week this morning.
Which one was that?
Oh, it was your claim that there was a conspiracy around the Goldschmidt and that story was given to us by my business partner.
Yeah, that's my theory. Sure.
Yeah. So given that I'm very close to that and know that you're factually wrong,
Okay.
I guess my question is, what else are you wrong about?
Well, I don't believe I'm wrong on that either.
Well, I can tell you, I know the facts and you don't, and you're not.
Well, I know a certain amount of facts that I have seen on that whole issue.
Well,
And that's why I have come up with this theory to explain it. I don't have any other theory to explain what happened back then.
Same question for you that I have for Abraham.
Okay.
We are looking for people who have a demonstrated record of accomplishment. It doesn't have to be in politics. You know, we endorsed a guy for mayor many years ago who had just run a very successful bar named
Okay.
Bud Clark. He turned out being a decent mayor.
Okay.
What can you point to in your past that says, I'm a guy who gets shit done? I can work with people. I accomplish things. I've been a leader. What can you point to that suggests you've got what it takes to serve in the Senate, above and beyond your viewpoints, which I understand are different from the incumbents, and I appreciate
Right.
that.
Well, I'm a father.
Excuse
I have four.
Was that
Now,
question
Abraham,
for
I'm
me?
not asking you the question. I'm asking Gary.
Yeah, silence his
Oh.
mic, please.
Sorry.
Well, all I have to, here's what I could say about that. My mother grew up in Russia, and her family was, they had their farm taken away from them by the Soviets and thrown into a work camp when my mother was 4 years old, because the Soviets thought a better use of their land was as a collective. So they just took everything that they had, and so then she worked in Minsk and was caught behind the lines by the Germans, and she eventually was thrown in a concentration camp, but she was retrieved to work in a German officer's farm during the war. And after the war, she couldn't go back to Russia, so she had to come to the United States. So she started out with absolutely nothing. My dad was the 10th of 10 kids in Dust Bowl, Oklahoma during the Depression. And he had to work and carry golf bags. And so when he was 11 years old, when he went to wash the ball in the ball washer, well, the guy he was caddying for swung back and crushed his skull and put his eye out. And they were very poor there. He lived on a dirt floor for a while. And he only had a 10th grade education because it was a Depression back then. And his dad talked him into going to work and dropping all out of school because school was not going to provide any value to him. So they got together and had kids. I started out with nothing there on about 115th, a little bit above Holgate, in a 760 square foot house without a garage. I started out with nothing, and I went through David Douglas High School, and I was a studier, you know, when that wasn't cool, and a bookworm, and I was voted the Albert Einstein of 1977 by my classmates, even though I couldn't understand that because who the heck knew me? But anyway, I got a technical education and worked hard, very, very hard, and was fairly successful and invested my money. I didn't blow it on partying. And so now I'm still in the David Douglas district, but I'm up on Mount Scott next to the Willamette National Cemetery, and I got this wonderful house, and here, check out my view. So personally, I think I've been fairly successful. When I got my job at Northwest Natural, I was doing some incredibly innovative things. I wasn't just collecting a salary because I was sitting in a certain chair with a certain title. I did very innovative things, did some industry innovative things. I was given some awards nationally, but because of my situation at Northwest Natural Gas, which is a horrible, terrible organization, well, I got terminated. And I had something that was going to completely revolutionize the changing out of the gas meters that you have on your house and everybody else has on their house, to make them last a whole lot longer and be much more accurate and produce a lot less waste thrown into our landfills. But because I got terminated, I never could do that project. And that was going to be my, the greatest thing, my greatest achievement that I could have offered as being an engineer. But too bad for that. And actually, I met a guy at Costco, a fellow engineer. He had just quit Northwest Natural. And he told me that one thing I was warning them of, that my idea was going to remedy, had happened. And so it was costing the ratepayers probably a couple $1,000,000 to remove about 10,000 meters out there in the field. So I've accomplished a lot. But as a politician, I have accomplished basically very little, because, people do not vote for libertarians, and, the Republicans and Democrats do what they can to keep libertarians off the ballot, including in Oregon, and to favor the Democratic and Republican parties by funding their primaries, but not funding third parties. And secondly, they just introduced something that is going to, that pays for the return ballots of the primary elections of the Republicans and Democrats, but of course not the libertarians. And we have a ballot measure coming up that if it passed, it's basically going to make it so we can't have white knights that are going to fund the Libertarian Party. And since it costs us like $14,000 to send out our ballots for the primary election, we probably might not be able to do that. So it's the end of the Libertarian Party. And finally, it's happened. The Republicans and Democrats have finally gotten rid of those other players. So you only have to choose between Republicans and Democrats. That's the way it is.
Thank you. Senator Merkley, can you tell us, do you have a position on whether, I'm back to the Supreme Court, on whether there should be a consideration for expanding the number of members on the court?
First, I wanted to note that, Gary, instant runoff would allow people to really choose their top pick and not feel excluded if that top pick didn't make it to the final two. And it's something that it's a system I like, because it does introduce more perspectives into a campaign. And there's been some experimentation with it in our state. Eugene has experimented with it. I think Maine is right now experimenting with it, but it may be a way to include and expand the number of parties that can have their voice heard, if you will. Turning to the Supreme Court, I'm very concerned that the court is being rigged for the powerful against the people. I was very concerned about that back when the seat was being stolen from Barack Obama and put forward to the Trump administration. When the Trump administration put forward their nominee, Gorsuch, I took to the floor for 15.5 hours to say, don't do this. If you do this, there is no cure, because what you basically doing are completing a theft that will completely politicize and delegitimize the court, and there'll never be kind of a right strategy to put the Humpty Dumpty back together again, if you will. There was actually an idea floated for this nomination that could have possibly put it back together, which was if Trump nominated Merrick Garland on this second nomination, then you might end up about where we would have had the seat not been stolen. But the Republicans chose not to do that, and they chose not to forward it. So I love the vision of our Constitution that Lincoln summarized of by and for the people. There's this natural tension between those who have a lot to want to keep rigging the rules so that they can have even more. And then it's very hard to resist that with mass action. So I asked my team to take a look around through history and try to find a situation in which a nation has had as much wealth inequality as ours does right now, and where a democratic republic managed to kind of restore core investments for ordinary people in healthcare, housing, education, and so forth, and level the playing field a bit. And the short answer is we're still looking. We have not found such an example. The examples we have found fall into categories of a plague or a pandemic of a certain type, a revolution, a war, or a Great Depression. In other words, that's how hard it is to reverse the situation we're in. So having a court that reinforces, if you will, government by and for the powerful is a big problem. And I think should this nomination go through, we will have to wrestle with that going into the future. In the past, I would have said that I really think that there is hope with a 5-4 court that we may be able to turn this around. I'll look at various options in the future to try to restore the legitimacy of the court, but I'm not endorsing or proposing or supporting any single idea at this moment.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
No, I'm calling for Aaron.
Oh,
Hi. Do you have further questions, Mark?
I do not.
All right, then we're going to ask the question that we ask every cycle to every candidate and attempt to get to know you a little bit better as people. And that question is, what's the most awkward moment that you've had during a Zoom call? Senator Merkley, will ask you first.
The most awkward moment has been the inability to get onto the call. I haven't actually had any Zoom meetings that have been Zoom bombed, though I keep reading about them and expecting something like that to be embarrassing or unexpected. But it's been my technological incompetence has been the embarrassment. So of not being able to get on at the right moment because I'm not hitting the right buttons.
Ibrahim?
Well, there are like a lot of things from someone getting naked and something like this. But the most awkward one was being smeared while interviewed.
Gary?
well, I think just about every one of my Zoom meetings is awkward because I have to answer these kinds of questions, and I don't have these slogans and whatever available to answer these questions. I think our economy and politics and society is so intermingled that the solutions to a lot of these single issues involves a whole bunch of things that have to happen in the economy and in the government. So I kind of stutter and stammer and get lost and don't come to my nice conclusion, and that is kind of a little awkward and embarrassing to me when I see that I've done that.
Well, thank you to all of you for the time you've taken with us. We appreciate you coming in for this conversation, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you
And
all
I really
very much.
appreciate it. I appreciate you, Mr. Zussman, that we are being shut out, not even in the government and in the election, but the media. And it's
Gary,
like
we're done.
all of the
Have a
media is
wonderful day.
basically shutting us out. We don't get our message out, but you guys do this, and we really appreciate it. And I advertise this and tell my fellow libertarians what a great job that Willamette Week does. You guys are the exception, and trust me, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Thank you, Senator. Bye.
Bye.